Maplewood City Council work session for Tuesday, March 15th, 2022 will now come to order. May we please have a roll call?
Councilmember Crossley,
Here.
Councilmember Fockingham, Mayor Knapper, Councilmember Page, Councilmember Phillips,
Here.
Councilmember Schmidt,
Here.
Councilmember Wood. Deputy Mayor Schmidt, we have a quorum.
May we have a motion to excuse council members Fockingham and Page and Mayor Knapper?
Motion to excuse Mayor Camper, Rick Page, and Sean Buckingham.
Second. Oh, sorry. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item number 4 is strategic priorities.
Okay, thank you, council members. So I'm just going to kick us off here with a very brief statement. So we have a very fiscally responsible fire department budget and one that fully funds the assistant fire chief position over the course of the 2022-2023 fiscal year. I understand this position was a priority with the council last year and was budgeted for half of the present fiscal year. But it's budgeted for the entire 2022-2023 fiscal year. So I'm going to point that out. And that's the conclusion of my comments. I'm going to turn it over to Finance Director Miller to brief us on the fire department budget.
Okay, can you all see that all right? Okay, so tonight we're discussing the fire department budget, and as you can see, we have combined both the fire half-cent sales tax and the general fund fire department budget into the fire half-cent sales tax. So it's one budget, so you can see the full picture of the fire department expenses without having to flip back and forth between general and fire sales tax. Now, we know that the half-cent fire sales tax will not cover all of the fire expenses, so it is done with the understanding that there will be a transfer in of general funds to supplement that budget. So, I mean, that is still just like it's always been. It's just all in one group instead of separating it out. As you can see, I'm just going to start off here on the summary page. We have where Chief Marsack has gone ahead, and as you can tell, between 2021 budget year and 2022-2023 budget year, that it is a decrease in expenditures. So he has really put together a very lean budget that addresses all of the issues needed for taking care of the residents and providing the right service and training and tools for the fire department. I do want to draw your attention to a couple of outlier in things that are on the budget. If you look on this first page here under personnel, so you will see that there's an increase in positions, and that is because we have combined both the fire sales tax and the general fund, just to make sure everybody's aware. And we have added in the one position for the assistant fire chief that was not in the prior year. We also have changed the terminology on some of the officers. So the position that used to be lieutenant is now battalion chief, and the position that used to be captain is now battalion chief, and the position that used to be called lieutenant is now captain. And that's more for when working with mutual aid to be able to better run the fire scene. So it's just a terminology change. There was no rate change or anything for those titles. If we look at the salaries tab, there's a couple of things I wanted to point out. One, we have budgeted the full salary for the fire chief. We don't know what pay range that's going to be, but that would be the max that we would pay a fire chief. So we wanted to make sure that we had enough money in the budget for that, or if, depending on what happened, that we had appropriate amount budgeted for the year. We have Chief Marsack, who is currently the acting fire chief, in the assistant fire chief position at the rate of pay that was originally established for the assistant fire chief. And then the other item is if you look at Captain King, it's highlighted in yellow. And the reason why is because Captain King has not actually been promoted to captain, but he is the most senior firefighter paramedic or firefighter EMT engineer. But he's the most senior senior employee that would then be that may actually get promoted to captain, but his salary would be the highest, that would have the highest jump. So that's why Chief Marsek went ahead and put him in that spot, so that we would budget enough if it happened to be him. But that position has not been, I don't even think it's been interviewed yet. has
No,
it?
we're still completing that process. And it was really just simplicity to move that name in there so the salaries would match. So there's no implication whatsoever. Just to be crystal clear.
That it's not like foreboding of what's going to happen later. It could be anybody. Again, as a reminder, insurance will be adjusted at the May 10th consolidated budget meeting. I actually just got the information about the slate health insurance renewal and the Delta renewal. We probably won't have those numbers until late April, but I'll at least have an idea of about a percentage to be able to increase to. So I am working on getting those numbers so that these numbers will change. Also, you can see that there is nothing budgeted for a cost of living increase. If that is fiscally responsible, then city manager will propose that at the May 10th meeting as well. And that's all I have in regards to, the other thing, just to kind of make you all aware, the three people that are in orange, Batar, Griffey, and Keibel, they are budgeted to get a full step increase, and it's budgeted for the entire year, but they won't actually get their step increase until they meet their 1-year anniversary, which is sometime during the next fiscal year. But both Halter and Ewing will get their step July 1st because they've already passed their 1-year anniversary date. So that's why there's the change in color there, just to make sure everybody was aware of what was going on. Are there any questions about salary? The only other thing I do want to say is I know it said personnel on the top, but it also said personnel on the first one. So that's something that I'm just changing all of it before we do the consolidated budget, because it seems like everyone is different and I don't know why. So we're going to make them all the same though. So. Any questions on salaries?
I just have a quick question related to, you'd mentioned the cost of living increase will be addressed at the consolidated budget meeting. What about merit increases?
Again, if that is at the city manager's pleasure, he would do that at the May 10th meeting. It just kind of depends on revenues at this point. So I think once he finds out what the revenue situation is, he will determine if he's going to do a cost of living or a mid-year merit or any merit. I guess it all just depends.
Thank you.
I just noted in the math correct that we came out lower, but added first. So that's
Yeah.
like in our total cost.
Yeah.
If there aren't any other questions about salaries, I'm actually going to jump over. I mean, we can look at it. I'd like to jump over to capital outlays. We could look at the accounts and we can go through those, but where the big differences are going to be in the capital outlays. And so I think it's probably more important to address some of those. On the capital outlays tab, the second, obviously the first item is the annual lease purchase payment for the fire pumper. And so that is, we have to do that. It's our debt. But the second item is the new fire command vehicle pickup truck or similar for the assistant chief. So this vehicle is going to be more of a utility vehicle to be able to transport items, but that price is all inclusive with radios, lights, decals, all of the equipment that's going to be needed for an assistant chief to run the scene. Correct?
That is correct. And I'm not even sure if that price may be a little bit high, but we couldn't get a hard figure because of all the chip issues. I'm just being transparent. That was a projection, but they're hoping it will be considerably less. So that's the goal. That's done.
Some of the other items there that are in the capital items, and they're not major items, but there's the the plan for replacing one iPad, the replacement of the computer and monitors, and that's just a standard replacement of equipment that they have. The 4 handheld emergency radios for $26,000. The radios that all the departments received back with the E911, right? Yeah, when all of that happened, those radios, they're out of warranty. They no longer, I mean, they're dying, their batteries don't work. So Pete is working on getting a replacement schedule to be able to get those, for a year, to be able to get them on a replacement schedule so we don't have to eat the whole cost at one time. So it just makes it easier budget wise. If you'll notice that the station alerting for the new ECDC dispatch computer software system, the East Central Dispatch Center is going to change how they do their alerting, which means that we're going to need to change our alerting software to be able to receive the alerts. They don't know exactly how much it's going to be, but they told Pete that $10,000 would probably be a good guesstimate for what to budget for that expense. They just don't know yet. And I don't know that anybody really knows yet because they haven't quite figured out how they're all going to talk yet, but supposedly they will.
Yeah, correct. I mean, trying to keep it simplistic, it's kind of like going from an old landline to a cell phone. They're getting away from the antiquated tone system. There'll be no more plectrons where you hear a beeping sound that opens up a box. It'll all be computerized where it sends a signal through the telephone line, which automatically activates the lights. Fortunately, we have a newer fire station, so we're hoping to not incur nearly that amount, but that was the amount that they told each agency to make sure you reserve. So that way when they bring the new stuff to the fire station, it can get activated. You need something to turn it on to keep it simplistic. So that was the dollar amount that we budgeted. We're not looking to upgrade anything because we already are there. The station lights that come on, things like that, the stove that turns off, all of that was included in our new station. So that should once again, very hopefully be a lot less.
The other item, if you notice, the very last item in the capital improvements is the utility terrain vehicle, or the UTV. That's budgeted for $20,000, but they've applied for a grant from Firehouse Subs, so they are not going to buy the vehicle unless they get the grant. If they get the grant, then this is the full cost.
Correct.
Okay.
They will cover 100% cost of the vehicle. We will only purchase the vehicle if we get the grant. You can apply for it several times throughout the year to Firehouse Subs. And the thought process would be this would be a shared vehicle that the police could use for community policing when it's not being utilized by the fire department. The fire department could utilize it for let them meet art for other public relations, Juneteenth. We currently borrow one from neighboring agencies, and when it says you city, no offense to them, or Kirkwood, still doesn't say Maplewood, and usually have to answer 50 questions on why we don't have one at City Maplewood. So in my opinion, it's also great for storm response. I'm just trying to give you some insight behind it.
So again, that would only happen if we receive the grant. So, and so those are the big changes there. The only other thing I think that I really wanted to bring up was we have a couple of items. We have under accounts, if we go back to the accounts tab, we have the gas, oil, and et cetera. It's account 50050. With the situation currently going on in the world, Pete's budgeted $10,000 for gas. That may change before we get to the May 10th meeting. It just depends on where gas prices are at that time and what the outlook is. So he budgeted a little bit. He didn't double it just because prices doubled, but he's trying to be proactive, but we just don't really know where that's going to end up. So we settled it at 10,000 for now. If we need to adjust it, we will do that at the May 10th consolidated budget meeting. And the other item is the economic development dispatch, which is account number 60115 under other services and charges. It's $89,724, which is, you can see, the same as it was budgeted for this year. We do know that one of the agencies that uses East Central Dispatch has left. And so they have to reconfigure to figure out what the cost is going to be. They have not been able to give Pete a number yet. We expect that we will have at least a better guess by May 10th. They're just trying to figure out what that means staff-wise. If they're going to keep the same amount of staff, then our price will probably go up. If they're going to reduce staff, our price will may stay the same or go down. We just don't know. So those are really the only two things under accounts that are really kind of out there. We're not really sure. There's a couple of things that have gone up, like advertising went up by about $1,000. And that's because we buy a lot more of the fire education, fire prevention materials, and so that has to go out for bid. So because we've been buying more of that, he wanted to make sure he had enough money in there for that advertising. And the other increases are really pretty much just your utilities, like the electric, the gas, water, sewer, things like that. So everything else is pretty much either where it was or it's gone down. They really tried to make sure that their budget was as accurate, as reflecting what they actually need as possible. Oh, yeah. Yeah. And just like with the other funds, there's the phone bill, I'm sorry, which is down here under telephone, which is 60530. That supposedly when we go to the voice over internet phone system will go down. I've heard numbers as much as $1,000 per month, but how that divides out by department and what lines they have to keep for alerting or whatever, we just don't know yet. So we don't want to, we stayed the same, we didn't go up, but it will probably be less when we get the new phone system in. Are there any other questions? Or any questions, I guess, we haven't gotten another yet.
I just have a couple. The repair maintenance, 50330, that is 3,000 on the accounts, but then it's still 2,600 on the worksheet, I believe. So
Hold on. Oh, it is. You have 2,600 too. And then over here it's 3,000. Is it supposed to be the 3,000? That's over here? Okay, it should be the 3,000. I'll make sure that that's adjusted for the consolidated meetings.
more of a comment than a question. The utilities, electric and gas
Yes.
have gone up consistently over the last 4 years. And I just curious, looking backwards, are we actually achieving a cost savings because of our LEED certified building?
You're more than welcome to answer that
Well, I
one.
think in theory, yes, and I'm trying to be sincere. I think part of the initial savings was there was huge reductions what they would actually charge us. So we were actually getting money back because we went with the cost savings. So for simplicity's sake, if it was a $10,000 electric bill, they were getting a $5,000 bonus for it. So it was kind of false read on it. So now that we're 5 years into it, we don't get that reduction, but we're still saving money overall. The way the system's set up, like there's not a single window we can open, which is a good thing. So that way there's not saying we're gonna have every window open, it's middle winter time, heat's pumping out, or AC vice versa. So yeah, and then I think part of it is also utility costs have gone up in general, like fires. Yeah, I'm gonna definitely up the amount.
Thank you for that. I was just, kind of curious. And then additionally, last year, I noticed under professional services, which was the 60400, last year was the big increase, and then we went back down this year. And since we had the two budgets last year, I actually had a hard time cross-referencing what that big increase
I
was.
should have mentioned that. That was, we budgeted for the fire chief consulting firm to get the new fire chief. So we took that out because that should be done this fiscal year. I'm sorry, I should have mentioned that before. We had talked about it. I just went right on by it. Sorry.
That was it for my questions. Thank you.
I had a couple. I noticed on that same page that Councilmember Phillips saw that on the work paper above that on 50050, it says 8,000. I think fuel, like you said, you increased it
Yeah.
to 10,000.
Yeah, we changed, me and Pete changed that last week. Yeah.
Okay, that's,
It's not
and
here, so. Yeah, so they- So we talked about it. We changed we probably changed both of these numbers when we were at his office. But, and I thought he said, and we thought we saved it on there. But it
Yeah.
didn't transfer over.
no worries. I just thought I'd
Yeah.
point it out to you.
No, thank you. because-
Yeah,
We was originally at 8,000, but then since everything happened, we went ahead and raised
which
it.
I appreciated. I noticed that and I thought that might be why. That's good. You may as well plan high and come in low. I had a question. There were a couple that didn't have anything this year. They're real nominal, but I just was curious for like miscellaneous other and then postage. There's nothing budgeted. I didn't know if there was like it went somewhere else or.
60360 and 60390.
I don't believe we budgeted things in the past. And for postage, we generally don't send things. And I believe it's just gone through some, well, you say postage, is that correct?
Postage and
Yeah, we
miscellaneous.
had 150 or like 100 budgeted last year.
Right. The expense has been minimal. We spent $16 the prior year for miscellaneous other. We budgeted 200. And then for postage, we spent 44. We budgeted 150. The cost is just so minimal that it can be absorbed on almost any other account.
Okay.
And it's silly to continue to budget that money there when we obviously don't have.
And if we did go back to today's, jump in to echo that, when the stamp, the postage machine, we would actually, you would get charged, it was over at City Hall by the copier back in the day, you have to weigh it, and then it would assign a fee, and you run it through the machine, that's where that comes from.
Right.
That's what the stamp
Yeah, we
is.
don't do that.
Yeah, no, no.
I just have a quick question. So this budget to me looks really smart. It looks comprehensive. Beyond this, are there any sort of like upcoming needs or unbudgeted needs that your department has?
So currently, I think we were able to address a lot of those the past several years with the new half cent. Quarter cent that took us to a half cent, we were able to get all new apparatus and new equipment. I've been working with Lexi to try and come up with a replacement plan for our equipment. So we're budgeting for it, just like the radios. In theory, we should get 4, but if we're running tight, we won't have to. But it's trying to replace the bigger ticket items that we need to as the time goes along. But currently, we don't have any needs.
Great, thank you.
That's really all we have. In regards to, if you looked and we've talked about it before, the performance metrics, those will be updated when we do the budget book, but it's just part of the same spreadsheet. So I wanted to make sure you all had the whole spreadsheet.
And I assume that, so there were 2 agenda items, but we were on number 5. I'm assuming there's nothing for number 4, which was, it has strategic priorities. I just,
That was, yeah.
That was just my brief comments.
oh, okay. All right. I just,
Yeah, we just moved to number 5 on that.
Yeah, sorry. Yes.
good. All right. May I have a motion to adjourn?
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?